So going from $10,000 in my account to having a fucking 7-figure real estate portfolio in less than 6 months after having no rich parents, no handouts, no idea what the hell I was doing, and alongside that, in a position where almost nobody in my family has ever been an investor. It was really just a matter of understanding the financial system and also being in a position where I wasn't falling to traditional mindsets and beliefs and actions that other people have taken in my, circle, or just people that are around family. Because a lot of people were telling me like, hey, bro, don't do this, X, Y, Z. How are you gonna manage these properties that are out of state? When I was starting it, because at first I started with investing out of state Section 8 rentals, and the benefit of that was me being in a position where I could learn, with the lower mortgage payment that I was having to front if anything went wrong. And then being in a position where, alongside building those reps, building those contacts, building understanding of the terminology, experience, overall, the whole shebang. And I would say the biggest leading factor of me obviously understanding the financial system is learning how to leverage other people's money, because there's your money and there's other people's money. And unless you're fucking Elon Musk, there is a lot more money. There's other people's, and there is yours. And even if Elon Musk, there is probably more money that is not his. Persist. You add a cumulative of everything. So when I was first starting, I had the 10 grand, and I was like, all right, like, what am I gonna do with this? And I had this mentorship program that told me, hey, you get a Section 8 rental for $10,000 down, all of the above. Complete bullshit. Like, you can, but does it make sense? Alongside that, very rare. But I sold into that, and I think that if I never was sold into that, I don't think I would have taken action upon it. So I'm glad that it happened, because it forced me to figure out. But that's why I always tell people that we work with in our program, saying, hey, look, it's a lot more than that, and I want you to be very conservative on it. So with that same regard, I had 0% interest business credit. I had like 30 grand on one card, the other grand was like 15. I ended up merging them together, liquidating business credit, and then using that as a down payment. When you're using these DSCR loans, they're just caring about if the property is self-sufficient off of the rents. That is the reason why they don't want to they don't want to see, W-2s, tax returns, all the above, because they don't care about it. Alongside that, with it being very recent bank statements, it's kind of could be manipulated a bit. Sometimes they want to see 12 months if it's some other sort of financing that's either FHA or conventional. Moreover from that is that when me starting with this, it was more of me breaking the mindset of understanding, okay, well, I'm investing out of state. I'm not seeing it as, a home. I think a lot of people have the perspective that, I'm buying this property to rent it out, and they treat it as a home, like it's a second home that's being, taken care of by somebody else. But that's just, I think, is a wrong approach to it. And a lot of individuals would probably disagree with me, and I don't have a problem with that. Two people could both be right. But I have the perspective, this is an investment, it's going to make me money. If it's not making me money as a property, then it is not an asset, it's a liability. So then, I was using the business credit, 0% interest, 1% of what I borrowed is a minimum payment. Alongside that, doesn't affect my credit report based off the usage. Liquidated that, put it in my bank account, did the down payment with my boy, closed it. The property needs a little bit of touch-ups on it, did some touch-ups, boom, started renting it out. So I'm like, okay, well, like I could do this a lot, faster. And as I started, obviously, I was running my business at the same time, my videography business. I was in a position where I had the funds to just literally pay off the card, maybe wait a little bit, buy another property. I was like, why the fuck am I gonna pay this card off? Like, why am I gonna pay this card that doesn't affect me? I'm just gonna go buy another property. Liquidated a little bit more, did the same thing, got to 3 rental units within, a month and a half of, the last one. And I was like, okay, like I could knock this out. Obviously, the profits that we were doing, we're just rolling it over, paying it out, paying it down, paying it down, paying it down. Just briefly, just so you could be in a position where you could use more if I want to. I didn't really want to pay myself out. And then from there, I was really looking at it from a perspective like, okay, well, I have this cash flow coming in, well over the average salary in the whole U.S. or even just California, just from 3 units. I'm like, okay, like what am I gonna do next? So then that's when I look at the perspective of everything: time, money, energy. I'm like, okay, well, this probably didn't really take me that much time, didn't really require a ton of energy, and the money's all right. But in terms of the money side, it's cash flow and appreciation. Appreciation wasn't really there. So I'm like, okay, well, I need to figure out how I'm gonna get the best of both worlds, because there's multiple things that you benefit from investing in real estate, especially if it's long term. And one of the biggest ones is appreciation, right? There's appreciation, appreciation, cost segregation, depreciation, cash flow, obviously building equity, debt pay down, all the above, right? But I had everything except for appreciation. So I'm like, okay, well, what am I gonna do? Talking to my boy Alex, I was like, hey, dude, we should buy a property in California. And a lot of people were like, bro, don't buy in California, the tenant laws suck. And I completely understood it, right? The property is closing tomorrow. have 3 occupancies, 4th one is not occupied. Do like a house hacking type model with that one. I won't really get into that one. It was like 730,000. So I'm like, okay, well, where else are we gonna get this type of appreciation and still have the same understanding of the markets with the contacts? I'm like, okay, well, that's why I was like, I can't buy in Ventura County, which is where I live. So I'm like, all right, well, this didn't make sense. There was no units in our buy box. So I'm like, all right, let's go to Bakersfield, right? That's like basically like a second Ventura County. It's like a chop-out version of Ventura County. So I'm like, all right, fuck it, boom. Started checking them out. Saw some units that were also, in our buy box, but they needed work. So I'm like, okay, money, it makes sense. Money makes sense, but time and energy doesn't make sense because I don't want to do any fucking work to the unit. I don't want to do any work. I don't want to have to front any mortgage payment for any sort of month and a half that it takes to do work. I don't want to do that. I do not want to pay any of my debts. I want other people to pay my debts. So then, obviously we're in a position where we did that. Checked them out, and then from there, I saw this unit that was obviously the one we bought. It was a 4-plex. It was brand new. So I said, fuck it. I'm going to submit an offer. Submitted an offer because Alex still has W-2 traditional proof of income, and obviously got accepted. I'm closing tomorrow. But the biggest mindset belief that I had was like, okay, well, if I have this property that's going to cash flow in Ohio that's making decent, great cash-on-cash returns, is that I would never be able to go and pull money from this, right? Leveraging the bank's money, right? The same way I use business credit. Pull from this to go buy another rental, right? That's in Ohio, because the cash flow, the appreciation isn't there. So the value of it doesn't go up that much for me to go and pull from it. Alongside that, what people don't tell you about is that you have prepayment penalties with most DSCR loans. Now, what does this mean? If you are going and you are in a position where you want to refinance right away for 6 months, 12 months after you close your property, maybe somehow you put work into it, whatever, depending on the loan type, you have a prepayment penalty of 5, 4, 3, 2, or 1%. Based off of the property's value, that's the penalty you have to pay alongside the other fees in order to pull your equity out. So sometimes you may even lose money. You could potentially even lose money on a refinance. So it doesn't always make sense to refinance. But if I buy property in California for appreciation reasons, with the way that we orchestrated the financing, anything that's in the difference, we pull it out. The lender that they're working with said that they'll waive their underwriting fees. We roll the other fees into the loan, no prepayment penalty. So you get how I'm creating a flywheel. Appreciation buys the cash flow pays us out, and then we roll that over into buying more appreciation and pulls cash flow. Because the average Section 8 rental, realistically, from freaking complete zero to cash flowing, is going to cost you like $25,000 to $40,000, just straight up. And that's all in, right? All investment, not only down payment closing costs, but at 1 month's maybe you can see, the second month you have to give your first month's rent to the property management company. You may have to put a gas oven in there, all of that, right? You never want to calculate just down payment closing costs. And that money of the $30,000, you obviously take a loan out against because you're refinancing, you're pulling it out, and it's obviously tax free because it's considered a loan. That will probably increase your payment by $50, right? But you're not paying that down. We're not paying that down. The tenant's paying it down. It's an everlasting flywheel with time on our side. And I would say the biggest thing from it was overcoming the mindset belief that I've only done smaller deals. It's $100,000, boom, I get my cash flow, and this is what I want. Because that cash flow is really not going to change your life. But the appreciation to buy this cash flow and have an everlasting loop will. Because someone else is paying this asset down, $730,000 fourplex. This is also getting paid down. But the market of this one is obviously going to go up a lot more than this one. And that difference, where it's going up, is where you could benefit from other people. Other people paying it down, other people selling properties in the area, other people doing flips, renovations going to the city. That shit doesn't have to do anything to do with me, but I get the benefit from it. And it's like that $55 a month, maybe $150 a month, doesn't affect me because I'm not paying it down. So it's like, why am I going to be in a position where I only get cash flow or I only get appreciation? Because this unit's not going to cash flow that much, maybe like $400 a month, if that. But that's not what it's for. So I would say the only reason that I ever held back on it, right, even though, like I said, from zero, and we have $1 million portfolio, 20 years old, only me and my business partner, Alex, right, doing this shit, which is a trip, both in our 20s, is that you need to have all pillars. But the biggest mindset thing that was holding me back is the tenant laws in California. I was like, fuck, what about the tenant, We inherited a property that has, 3 tenants. So I'm like, okay, we got to screen them, boom, 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 they're on time, So I'm like, okay, that's fine. And I think the biggest thing that's going to be from us is obviously with us doing that extra due diligence, it's made it sure. And then also, the biggest tip I could give is that you need to have your property management sorted before you go in a position where you're obviously submitting the offers, or just going full fledged with the property. Because although it's only like 2 hours for me, it's not in a short enough distance for me to go and do it like an emergency if anything happens, right? Especially I don't want to be the person doing that. So I was hitting up these property management companies before we even passed inspection, or cleared inspection contingency, basically saying like, hey, we rock with the property and it's all good. Because I was in a position where I said, look, I need to have a tenant ready, close, and then we're good. And we as soon as we close, we put the tenant chilling. But why am I going to wait till I close to start doing that? Because I have a grace period of escrow, right, the transaction process, to go and do that. Those are free days. Why am I going to wait until I'm going to be responsible and have a ticking time bomb, ticking clock, until I'm responsible for the mortgage payment? Why am I going to do that? It doesn't make any sense. So I'm doing that, vetting my property management companies, have some people I'm basically set on. Second we close tomorrow, I'm going to say, look, we closed, everything's funded, everything's good, get me a fucking tenant now. But then, with it being a higher payment, $5,700 a month, I'm also in a position where the profit being a little bit lower, is you have to understand that there's different products for property management companies. You could just get leasing only, which is them just placing a tenant, and that's it. But the kicker that I kind of had was like, okay, well, instead of me paying you 10%, 8% top line, right, which is the overall rents, which would fucking put me in shit, right, I would literally be losing money on it, is that I go, you place a tenant, boom, I get charged a fee, but I'm also not responsible for the mortgage. And then also, closing on the 28th, the first of the month is when the rent's due. They're going to send that directly to us with no mortgage payment, so it's pure profit in our pocket. Alongside that, that profit could be allocated into covering the fee that they're going to take out of the first month's rent for placing that tenant. And now I'm in a position where this tenant is placed. I don't have a monthly 8 to 10%. I didn't front that fee. And alongside that, I'm in a position where, because someone else paid that fee, is that with first month's rent collection going partially to them, deposit would be ours. And then obviously the next following month when the rent payment's due, they pay it off. But I'm not in a way cutting myself short or cutting my bottom line by having the 10% fee. But they would even, when you have the right contacts, you have the right reputation, you have the right communication, you have the right presentation of yourself, they're willing to go and they're willing to be in a position where they don't charge us a 10 to 8% monthly top line. But then they'll be willing to be on site and do any sort of work that's needed. If anything happens, the tenant calls me, I call them, they go. They're gonna add a fee on top of the work, but you have to understand that that's only if something happens, and that's for us to bite that until for 6 to 12 months from now, refinance, lower the payment, and then integrate them into it. You get what I'm saying? So there's always a million things to work around with it, but those are I would say these are the biggest things in terms of this whole process as a whole and what I've been experiencing. But like I said, going from 0 7-figure portfolios, they've just been doing the reps, building with what you have, starting small, boom, building it up, getting the mix of appreciation and cash flow, integrating the two to create a flywheel, borrowing other people's money, not being scared about it, and being in a position where all the numbers are configured, and not only in terms of the investment financially, money in, money out, but also time and energy. Those are the biggest things. You can't just think about 3 pillars. You can't just think about 2 things, one thing. Think about all 3 pillars. So appreciate you watching. I know it was a little bit of a ramble, but I'm just going to keep this YouTube very raw, authentic in terms of what's going on in my mind, just so you can see, as someone that's going through the whole fucking process, what I'm thinking. So appreciate you watching. If you have any questions, comment down below. I'll catch you on the flip.